All right, so the second guest of the Provoking the Conversation podcast, good friend of mine, played football together. Man's out here doing some great things, really trying to, like we like to do here in our podcast, provoke some conversation, change some things. His name is Terrence, but I'm gonna call him Terry because Terrence just is too official. Got Terry Jackson here. Terry, man, let me first ask you, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, bro. How you doing? I'm doing real good.
I'm good, even with the trying times and everything going on. Trying my best, to stay positive because sometimes that's kind of hard.
Absolutely, bro. Real hard, real hard. But like you said, keeping that positive mindset, that's key.
Right, right. So the big reason why I wanted to have you like on this podcast and wanted to talk to you is because you've recently started a podcast called let me make sure I get it right, the Head Right podcast, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you have a co-host, you and your co-host, and I'm sorry, his name is escaping me right now. What's his name again? I'm sorry.
Nick Holzer.
Nick. And
Yeah, Nick.
And the first thing is that you guys have had some heavy hitters on there as guests. Teachers. Lawyers. I believe I've been able to tune into some episodes. I haven't had a chance to get through them all, but from the conversations and the clips that I've had to listen, there's some really engaging conversation going there, and I think people need to hear more about it. But I guess my first question to you is, what made you want to start a podcast, especially right now?
A lot of reasons, bro. To be honest, I just started to get into listening to podcasts probably just this year, probably just 2020 when, quarantine happened and everyone had to find new things to do, new activities to do. And something I really got into more was reading and listening to podcasts, just trying to learn more. And I think that's it's a fun way to learn because it's not like I like to read books, but listening to podcasts and especially with people that I enjoyed listening to, it makes it kind of more fun. And I think I learn a lot too. So I had that idea, just watching the Joe Rogans of the world and watching the Kevin Harts of the world. I always had that idea. I'd like to get into that one day, but I never knew how I would get into it. And then once the world started going crazy, once George Floyd and once the BLM movement really started to take off, I just had an idea, and it just started off as an idea. Honestly, we wanted to do one podcast. To tell you the truth, we wanted to just try to we wanted to put out one podcast, and then it got received really well the first one. And then from there, we just started going, bro. Like you said, we've been trying to gathered lawyers, trying to gather police officers, trying to gather people who work in the mental health field, trying to gather athletes, trying to gather just prominent people and just share the conversation, get the conversation started, and just share experiences and try to come up with solutions. And there's so many things to get into about that. And once I saw your podcast, you started before I did, and that kind of I was influenced by that for sure. I've been influenced by a lot of different people, and definitely by you with your podcast. So much love and appreciation. But exactly like you said, bro, we're just trying to get the conversation started, and like you said, a lot of people need to hear it. So I'm happy it's going pretty well so far.
Well, I'm glad I was able to help, since push you to go there. One of the things, just to talk a little bit about, like, I've been wanting to do a podcast for about a year now. I just never really was able to find the time. And with everything that went on similar to you, I got a little bit more time and I felt a little bit more compelled to, I think I need to use my voice a little bit better. And, in my podcast, we cover a lot of subjects, but again, the focus the last few weeks and probably will be for a little bit longer here is the Black Lives Matter movement and how this country needs to change. And one of the questions I had is actually about your co-host. How did you meet him? Because that's always interesting because I was trying to find a co-host for the longest time. Like, who wants to do this with me? Nobody really jumped on, and I kind of had to just jump in that water by myself, which it's actually been a really opening experience of what I enjoy. But how did you meet your co-host, and how did you guys kind of come together and say, yeah, we should do this?
Yeah, that's been my guy, Nick Coulter. That's been my guy since probably my first year playing football in like the third or fourth grade. We grew up together, went to college. He ended up going to a school near Seton Hill called St. Vincent, a Division III school. We played football there, and him and I always remained close. We have similar music interests. Steelers, of course. We always stayed in touch through that. And then once this kind of happened, he's the one who kind of sparked it. He's the one who presented the idea. Let's do something, Terry. I don't know what it is, but we should do something. And then him and I, we both follow the same podcast. It's called the You Never Know podcast by this music artist we both follow. And we both kind of were just like, bro, let's have an open forum. Let's gather some people we know and try to have a discussion. And just like that, it took off from there. I'm not gonna say take off, but it started taking off a little bit from there. And now we're on our 4th week coming up. So I'm
Okay.
excited. I'm very excited.
Okay. Well, I'll be listening. I'll definitely. I got like one more episode to really catch up on. Definitely put your podcast on my, my follow on my Spotify. I'm definitely a supporter. So,
My man.
wish nothing but the best of luck for you guys. And so just to kind of get into it. So we mentioned the Black Lives Matter movement. That to me and you as being African Americans and people of color, that means a lot. I wanted to kind of bring up the current state of it. So to me, we've kind of reached a point in this movement where things we see it on social media where they've kind of slowed. The feeds are starting to go back to normal. People are starting to post the regular stuff, especially with the country opening back up. People are starting to go into summer mode and not, starting to leave, protest mode or, outrage mode. You still see sprinkles of it. I mean, I think it will always be something that we see on, to be honest, people of African Americans feed. But mostly allies I see the start sprinkling out. But what do you think is the current state, in your own words, of the Black Lives Matter movement and, obviously change in what we need in this country?
Like you said, it started off so hot, like with the
Yeah.
riots, and it started off so hot,
Hmm.
and that's when, in that moment, I really wanted to take advantage of the moment, and I wanted to put out one podcast. It was right in the middle of when things were really sparking off. And I wanted to take advantage of that moment because I knew it would die down. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I think it is dying down, but at the same time, I think our message is getting across. And I think our message right now, personally, is I think we need to, what's the word I want to use? We need to speak the white people of America, the good ones of America, they need to be vocal along with us.
Hmm.
Because I think the example that I like to use is if your mom and dad tell you to do something, you might not want to do it, but then your friends tell you, oh, okay, I'm gonna do it. It's
Yeah.
it's like if if we get white voices to speak out, and it's not just us speaking out. If we get white voices to speak out, then other white people, it might hit them a little different. And even if it doesn't hit them a little different, they're going to be exposed by the white
Hmm.
people that aren't just letting it slide anymore. Now I see friends everywhere calling out their own parents. I
Hmm.
have plenty of friends who have like exiled their mom and dad because of
Hmm.
this, and it's real. This is real, the real life stuff we're going through right now. But I think right now we need to continue to encourage our friends. We need to encourage our allies of not just people of color, but everybody to stay behind this and get behind this. And everyone has a different role. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Some people, your role might be to post. Some people, the role might be to do a podcast. LeBron James, his role is to, I don't know if you saw the thing he just created with a bunch of athletes among professional sports, but they're trying to encourage young people to vote.
Hmm.
Each person has a different role, and it's just finding your role and then really going at it the best way you can.
Yeah, I think that's really big about finding your role because everyone's gonna have a different part in this, and this is no matter how you look at it, it's history. Me, you have podcasts. Other people may be able to give donations. Other people were able to protest. One of the reasons
Absolutely.
I wasn't able to protest, right now I live with older people, so with COVID-19 out there, I didn't feel comfortable, so I used my voice in a different way. And that's the
For,
other thing. You
for
talked
sure.
about encourage. We need to encourage people to do what feels comfortable to them, but also make others feel uncomfortable. You talked about it being a fire. When you get close to a fire, it gets uncomfortable and you start to move away, or, how can we put out the fire? Something has to change here because I'm uncomfortable. We have to continue
Absolutely.
to do that. Um, so, I talked about a little bit just a moment ago. I'm feeling out like it's fizzling out, but I think you gave a really good example of maybe it's fizzling out, to us to the naked eye, but maybe it's starting to become, more focused. Maybe it's not so much rioting and things like that. Maybe people are, actually calling lawmakers. We're starting to see some laws change too, especially with changes with police forces. Some, cities are talking about abolishing the police or reforming the police. So we are seeing change. So, it is the fire may not look as hot, but it's still hot. So I mean, I think
Yeah, the
it
ball's moving. The ball's
right.
definitely moving.
The ball's definitely moving. And one of the things that I mentioned to one of my friends is that this has to be a continuous, ball moving, like you gave the example, because we may not see change immediately. We may see small changes now, but this is for the future. I was trying to explain to somebody like this. Yes, this is for our generation, millennials, and the generation behind us, which is Gen Z, I believe. But it's
Yes, sir.
also for the people behind them because they're really going to reap the benefits. You know, all those people back when, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X was alive when they were protested. You know, we are actually seeing, may not seem like it sometimes, the benefits of that. Um,
Absolutely.
so I think that was important. But one of the other questions I wanted to hit with you today is that, in your own words, you mentioned that white people need to speak out, and I'm gonna kind of hit on that point in a moment. But other than people of non-color speaking out, what else do you think is really needed for change? It could be subjects of police reform, lawmaking, just some of your ideas of what you really think that needs change for how minorities and especially Black people live in this country, and police brutality and popular subjects like that right now.
I think it needs to be. Well, the conversation being started is definitely a good start.
Hmm.
A teacher told me he was on the first podcast, and he said all of this starts in the home. And to the, I really agreed with that because by that he means it starts with parents teaching their kids the proper way to do it. So 20 years from now, like you said, they have their kids, and now the kids that we're going to have, they're going to reap the benefits of what we're trying to do right now. So
Wow.
I think it needs to start in the home. I think it needs to start in the family, but it also needs to start systematically
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of these things that we're fighting against is people to people, but it's the system as well. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of systematic things that are in place to keep people of color down, and I see it time in and I've experienced it time in and time again. And those are the things that it kind of feels like, man, how can I fight against this? It's the system, but at the same time, we haven't really had this experience of having our phones. You know what I mean? We can see brutality, we can see violence immediately. We can film it. Now it's out in the world. That's never been like that. There's been racism, there's been protests, there's been riots for hundreds of years, but we've never been able to have the access to record the things and to expose people as much as we do now. Like I go on Facebook and there's like whole crazy Karen pages. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like these people are being exposed
Right.
regularly, and that's something we should utilize. But at the same time, we need to be wary of the fear that it causes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like in the news right now, there's so many examples that I can have, but it's very normal for us Black men to feel fear when we see police and to
Mm-hmm.
feel fear when we are in these situations. But at the same time, that fear, I think, can escalate, and that's how we see things happen. I'm scared. I'm scared of a cop for pulling me over. I'm scared. I'm gonna yell. Oh, he's mad, so he's gonna yell even louder. I'm a human. I'm gonna yell even louder. Next thing you know, I'm dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think that's how these things happen. It's an ego thing. It's one thing that gets escalated, the next, and then the next. So what I'm trying to get with that is, I just think we all need to educate ourselves, and we all need to be safe for sure. But take advantage of these phones. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And try to expose as many people as we can.
Yeah, and the other thing about phones is that phones have become such not only, like I like to say, a toy, but they're such a tool. Not only for recording bad things that happen, like you mentioned, but also you can educate yourself straight from your phone. You could get books right off your phone. You could read articles, like different things like that. And even education can come in the form of just speaking to people through social media.
Absolutely.
That's just you have. There's no excuse nowadays why you can't educate yourself on what is going on. You
No
know,
excuse.
it's just. And you mentioned something else about the teacher you talked about starting in a home. And I think that really boils down to what I think really is necessary for change, which in America, there's been a couple narratives running around that it's a Black versus white or so and so versus so and so. It's not a people issue, it's a heart issue. It's what people feel in their hearts. What happened to George Floyd is because that officer has some type of hate in his heart. What happened to these other, African American males or or women or minorities or what happens to anybody in this country is because of some form of hate. Now, for some reason, there's been a hate that's been carried over for 400 plus years towards African Americans that's going to take some time to get rid of. But that's where it needs to start. Conversations and showing empathy and starting to kind of vacate that hate in people's hearts. And the friend, excuse me, your teacher friend is exactly right that it starts in the homes. It starts in how me and you may raise our kids. It starts out with the conversations we may have with our parents. It starts with the conversations we have with our friends. And things
Exactly.
like that. So the conversation is definitely where it needs to start. It also needs to push the conversation from just talking to let's show empathy. Let's listen to each other. Let's try to understand each other's views. And that takes something in your heart. That's something you have to want to accept and something you want to do. Now, I've come to the acceptance that some people just won't do that. But
They
I
don't
feel
want
like,
to. Yeah.
yeah, but I feel like if we continue to push this narrative, if you know more of unity and caring about each other and making sure Black Lives Matter, that those people don't want to change, they'll get left behind, and they'll feel like they're out of the loop. So I feel like they will be left behind, and this country will change for the better.
I
Um,
think the same thing. I think the same thing. Our first title of our first podcast, it was called Listen to Understand. And the
mhm,
example that the guy gave was a lot of people on the opposing side, they want to listen to respond. They'll listen to what happened. Oh, well, what did he do to provoke the officer? You know what I mean? You listen to understand, listen to
mhm,
feel. Don't listen to respond. 'Cause that's what
right.
I mean. I'm guilty of it sometimes. Just in day-to-day conversation, I'll notice it with my girlfriend or something. I'm listening to respond. I'm not really listening and taking in what's happening. And that's something that I'm trying to do more in my life. And I think that we all need to listen to understand.
Definitely listen and understand. Something that I learned when I did my short stint in customer service. Customer service was my first really big boy job because I needed money in my pocket. And you learn
Yeah,
a
you got
lot
to.
about how much you don't listen, because those people on the phone seem to tell you. So that's very important. Now, you also talked about briefly, being an African American male in this world, in this country right now, and I can relate to that a lot. That there's a certain level of fear. Um, so that kind of brings up the question: what is one of the most challenging parts right now about what's going on? Just to give you a little bit of an example, for me, it's really trying to find the medium of when people are being racist or people are being, prejudiced against, African Americans on social media or in person, to resistance to not just look. Let me put you in your place real quick, because that's
Yeah,
exactly the opposite of what I was just preaching, which is hate. So that to me is really the internal struggle, is the challenging part, and of course the fear part. But unfortunately, I talked about this in one of my other podcasts, and I think it was the podcast, unfortunately, right after George Floyd was killed, that one of the things Black men, unfortunately, we come to terms with is living in fear. We learn how to adapt to it because ever since we were little kids, our parents sat us down like, look, you're different from everyone else. You're basically anywhere you go, you're in danger of you know, you have to always keep your head on a swivel, was basically. So I've
yeah,
kind of learned to live like that, but that even now, I feel like I got even more of a target on my back because there's this war between police and regular people and white people and Black people, when it's not even about that. It's really, we just need to become unified. And yes, Black lives need to matter in order for that to happen. But again, going back to my question, what's one of some of the more challenging parts for you as in right now with the state of the world?
it's tough, bro. Some things that I think are challenging are just taking care of your mental. You know what I mean? There's since college, there's been and just like a regular 20-year-old, there's their ups and downs in life, and something that I needed to really focus on when I was like 22, 23 was just taking care of my mental and my headspace and really working on that. And now that I'm in this point of the world where it's like a football game. It's like, you know what I mean? Things happen. You might
Hmm.
turn the ball over. You might fumble, and you got to stay composed. You got to remember what you practiced, and you got to stay composed and listen to what your coach has said so you can
Hmm.
come out on top. Now it's like these are the moments people are pushing you. They're pushing your buttons. These are the times where you're on Facebook and you see arguments and you see people say crazy things. I'm trying to just keep my composure and just keep my head level, because if we speak out of anger, because this is very an angry time for a lot of us, and
Right.
we see it physically with the riots, we see it every day. But I don't think the message is going to. I don't think our message is going to stick with anger. I think if we keep level heads and speak, with the goal of progression, then
Mhm.
I think we can have good conversations, and then I think we can make change. So just, trying to keep my anger and my emotions out of everything. Like when I
Mhm.
see, like the other day, I'm jogging in the neighborhood, and this is something that Black people have to go through on a daily basis. I'm jogging in the neighborhood, and there's these two white couple like walking my way, and I'm jogging on the sidewalk. Like a block ahead, in my mind, I said, I'm going to start jogging on the street so they don't see me as a threat. That's just
Mhm.
crazy that in my mind, that's what I had to think, because I know if they see me running at them and I don't move out the way, I'm a threat. And sure enough, I get close enough and they both have Make America Great Again hats on and they give me a smirk, and it is what it is. I live in Western Pennsylvania right now, so that's just something I have to deal with. But yeah, just keeping that level head, bro, is something that I think right now I'm focusing on the most.
Yeah, and that scenario you named, that's real. No matter if you're jogging or if you're just walking. I have conditioned myself to, when I come across people of non-color in a public place, to
Yeah,
smile extra friendly so I do not come off as a threat.
it's
I have
crazy.
I've conditioned myself since becoming an adult to do that.
It's
I've
crazy,
conditioned
bro.
yeah, it's nuts when you really think about it. Like, you've really dedicated your behavior or adapted it so you could try to keep yourself safe because you live in fear. And it's wild to really think about it. And other things as well, not only like in public places, but just at my workplace I do it too. you know there's only a few African Americans in there, and I know that I have to try and make some, and I love my white friends at work, they listen to this, but I love them there, but I
Yeah,
know I have to be extra friendly around them, because I don't know if I get mad about something at work or become upset, that they're gonna be like, oh, Sean was snapping, angry Black man, oh. And they may not say that
100%.
to my face, they may not even say it out loud to my boss, but that's what's going to go through their heads. And I have to always keep my head on a swivel and make sure, like, okay, Sean, say happy and friendly, say hi, shake hands, kiss babies, because if someone
Yep.
sees you as a threat, it can come back to haunt you. Because one of the things growing up as an African American male, you're almost waiting for them to stick the knife in your back, which is
Yeah.
terrible. And I try to, not think that way, but unfortunately, it's more of the reality. So you talked about keeping your mental right, and that's something that, as I become more of a mature adult, something that I've really focused on. For years I've contemplated, therapy. Haven't gotten there yet. I talked about one of my other podcasts, but I think eventually I'll get to the steps of getting there just for mental health. Not because
Yeah,
I
bro.
feel like I'm going crazy, but I just think like everyone at some point should do some type of mental health, even if it's just going to a counselor or therapist, just to see if it's something that is positive for you.
For
Um,
sure. I
and
agree with that, bro.
it should be when it's your choice, and not. And people always tell me that. But one of the things, like, my next question is, what activities do you do to kind of keep yourself straight? For me, like probably like yourself, it's the gym. Take out that little bit extra aggression, kind of get that alone time with your music. This podcast has been, kind of miraculous for my mental health. I can kind of get my feelings out. I could talk to others like yourself about feelings that, me personally, I'm kind of a loner. I kind of like do things myself, but when I get to have
Yeah.
these conversations, it's like having friends afar. So, and you wouldn't believe, just talking about, reaching out to other people, I've been amazed by the amount of support that I've gotten from people that I've just went to school with, that have,
Yeah.
messaged me and said, "Hey Sean, I know you don't know me from a can of paint, but a lot is going on. If you need to talk, I'm here." And I'm just like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, bro.
And it's crazy because the time right now is really exposing who has, a really good heart, and who doesn't, because you're seeing the racists come out the woodworks.
Out the
They're
woodworks, bro. Just coming out.
Confederate flags, mother effing you, screaming at you
Coming
as
out
you
of
walk through.
nowhere.
I'm like, oh, they're here, but so are the people that care. And I think those are the people that we really need to stand beside us. But what are some of the particular activities you do to kind of keep your head right? And that's the name of your podcast, so you should be an expert at this.
Yeah, bro. It's funny. I'll get into the name. It's funny how we came up with the name, but let's see. I kind of was introduced to just power of the mind and the spirituality and that sort of way probably a year and a half ago, and it changed my life forever, bro. There's things that I do regularly now. I wake up every morning. I don't miss a day. I meditate 20 minutes right there. I write down my goals. I write down my
Mm-hmm.
affirmations. Just like I intend to be great. I intend to have a good heart. I intend
Mm-hmm.
to give. I intend to. I have a whole list. I
Mm-hmm.
write down every single morning, and then after I do those three things, that's basically it. I go work out, like you said, take out the anger right there in the gym, because the gym, it does a lot, bro, and that's why I'm in the fitness game. There's so many benefits to fitness, not only physical but the mental side of it, bro. When you're working out, you know what I mean. I like to have my goals focused on in the forefront of my mind at the entire time, and when I'm in there, bro, it's like the physical journey. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the actual journey. Like I'm not making money in the gym, but it's that
Mm-hmm.
physical. I'm working towards it. I'm working towards it. And then you walk out feeling a better person. When I was done being a college athlete, we worked out a lot in college. I took off a year, bro. I wasn't in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed is I was angry. I had an attitude, and it wasn't something I noticed in the moment. But once I kind of got to a point where I'm like, damn, Terry, like, yeah, you got to get back in the gym. And that's
Yeah.
when I really started to take fitness seriously and taking my mental health seriously. So that's something that I want to preach to everybody, bro. And it needs to start in high school, bro. Kids are going through it right now. So I think it needs to start at a young age, and because it's only going to make you better when you're my age and even older. So yeah, those are just some of the little things that I like to do to keep my head right.
Yeah, the definitely I can definitely relate to you about the kind of the journey in the gym. Except, I'm not really thinking about where I'm going. I'm more thinking about, all right, what am I gonna eat later, and how many weights do I have to lift so I can eat this without feeling bad. But like,
Yeah,
kind of on a serious note, just about the mental journey of like physical exercise. It's also about um, visionary, envisioning things. So I want to envision, how I want to look for me. One thing that
yeah,
fitness has done for me, and really getting back into it, is taking a lot of, like you mentioned, self pride. Taking pride in yourself, and taking pride not only how you look, and not for selfish reasons, not for your lady or the ladies, or because you're self-centered, but because I want to feel good about myself. And this is again, and also one thing that me and you can relate with football. One thing football did was push you, and you start to realize not only does it keep you mentally healthy, it makes you mentally tough. And that's what I tell people too. I work out in the morning so I can mentally push myself at the beginning of the day. Because if I can
oh
get through
yeah,
this crazy workout that my app or I've created for myself, I can get through my boss giving me 10 million things to do. I can do it.
oh yeah,
It
oh yeah.
keeps you mentally tough there. But you were going to talk about, so you talked about kind of coming to kind of a spiritual awakening. Is that where the head right kind of came into play? Is that where you kind of, oh, well, head right? I've
Yeah,
been trying to get my head right.
yeah, sort of, bro, sort of. Yeah, like there was a lot of ways we wanted to play off the name, but honestly, it started with I have a friend. There's an intro song on the podcast,
Hmm.
and I met him in New York probably 6 months ago, and he introduced me to this song called Headright, and it was
Hmm.
dope, and I really liked it, and then I kept in touch with him for months,
Hmm.
and then once the podcast idea came around, and I was just sitting brainstorming, and I'm just thinking like I got to get my head right. Like what's going on, man? That song, I kid you not, that song came on right there at that moment, and that's the whole like I think it was the universe kind of giving me a wink, like you're onto something. So then I
Hmm.
started thinking like head right, head right. My whole mission of the podcast is gathering heads to move into the right direction, getting our heads right. So there's
Hmm.
a lot of different ways we can play with the name. So I got a hold of the guy who made the song. He gave me the A-OK. He's like, bro, use it. I want you to do that. So we made the intro video, and then it stuck. It stuck. The Head Right podcast. So yeah, that's kind of
Okay.
where that came.
Well, usually that's where podcasts come from, some small form of inspiration.
Yeah,
For me, the moment for me was it was actually social media interaction. Um, you know, I commented. I think it was on the Shade Room too. It was something very out of the blue for me because I don't comment a lot. But
yeah,
what it was, I commented on somebody. It was a post about like should men pay all the bills? One of those crazy posts that I just said, oh,
they have the craziest things on their
I was
pages.
like, today I got the time. I'm gonna
Yeah.
comment on this. But I started going back and forth with this woman. And at the end of it, she showed like an appreciation saying, you got me to think about this a little bit. Now that interaction, and also I am on Reddit, so I'm on the football Reddit and the video game Reddit. And one of the things on the football Reddit, you go back and forth with all the football nerds about analytics and who's better. But it's really, I've had some genuine conversations there about, football analytics, how we look at football. Speaking of football, I hope we have a football season, but it doesn't look good. We can we
It's
can
not
we can
looking
touch on
good
that a little bit next. But just for
for
them
sure.
interactions, I'm like, this is what people need. People just need to, kind of, we need to provoke more conversation about things. And it was like, ding, ding, ding. That's what I'm gonna call my podcast. And then
Just like
a
that.
couple months later, pandemic, I don't have much to do. Oh, let me start that podcast I've been meaning to start. And here we are today.
Yeah,
So,
bro. We get those inspired thoughts. And what I'm learning is once you get that inspired thought, run with it.
yeah.
Run with it, bro. Just run with it.
Someone told me once, thoughts are not put in your head for no reason. They're meant to be acted upon. Or you're supposed to learn something about yourself from your thoughts. So
Hmm.
once I was told that, I was like, okay. But kind of hitting off track for some serious stuff. Football season. I know we're both football fans. It doesn't look good. There was reports about like Texas, University of Texas football players with COVID already, and there were Clemson, and we're talking like double digit numbers. What do you think about like the kind of the stage of sports right now, or the status of sports? Because it looks like we're getting basketball back. I think
Yeah.
hockey's trying to make a comeback, and Dana White at UFC is getting all the money right now. He was like, "Oh,
he's
y'all
a
can't put on shows? Bet I got it. We'll have a
he's
fight every
determined,
day."
bro. He's determined. That man is
um,
a winner.
yeah, he's definitely got that winner's mentality because everybody else was panicking. He was like, "How can I make this work?" And
Yeah.
speaking of UFC, because this is something sports actually, my brother he does jujitsu, and my dad and me love watching UFC, so it's actually become one of the major sports in our household. But
That's what's up.
UFC is definitely on the rise after this. Like, um, it's definitely something that's going to be more watched by people. So I just think
I'd have to agree.
I just think that was interesting about like how the state of sports. How do you feel about the state of sports right now, just in your own way, your own personal opinion?
It's strange, bro. And to be honest, like I love sports. I
Mhm.
want sports to be here, but I wouldn't be opposed to just having a scratch year, man. 2020 just I wouldn't be
Yeah.
opposed to it just because there's so much going on and these companies and these businesses and these corporations, they're money oriented. So to them, they're gonna work, they'll try their hardest regardless.
Oh
But
yeah.
with the NFL, like it was hard enough to set up Tom Brady and Peyton Manning to have a golf match, let alone have 53 players on a field.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? What 32 each? I'm sorry, 30, 53 each team. 53
Yeah.
people each team on a football field every week. Like
Yeah.
that's just I don't know. That doesn't seem too possible right now, especially with the cases rising.
It
Ah,
doesn't look good. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't look good, and I wouldn't be sad. I mean, I would be sad, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't be rioting. I wouldn't riot over that. I'll tell
I
you that.
wouldn't
I
lose my
wouldn't.
mind, especially after the NFL. How they did Colin Kaepernick for 4 years. I mean, Roger Goodell apologized, but come on, Roger, you
That
knew
fake
he was
ass
being
apology.
you knew he was being blackballed. I haven't
Yeah,
seen any action since the apology about changing things in the league. You've been struggling for years to get minority leaders such as GMs and coaches in there, and you knew this was a problem. How is your league almost, I would probably guess to be 70% black, of your players 70% black, but there's only one totally black GM and head coach combo. That's, you know, that's Flores in Miami and the GM
yeah,
there.
yeah.
You have Mike Tomlin, and then you have San Diego's coach. His name is leaving me.
I
He's
know
black.
you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's black. Yeah, yeah.
So there's only a handful. So like I don't get it. Maybe I'll wait and see with the NFL. But speaking of the NFL, one thing that pops into my head about them. How did you feel about Drew Brees' comments and his? I called it the cleanup, and then I called it like, oh, he's serious. He came at Trump. Okay, he does feel bad. How
Bro,
did
Drew Brees, he's been shady. I don't know if I trust the guy, bro. He's been
okay.
shady for a long time. Drew's been there. He's been shady for a long time. I'm not gonna speak on him. Well, I'm gonna
Hmm.
speak on him. Let me talk about it. Like there was
Yeah.
an issue where he was like affiliated with a supremacist church. Do you remember about
Mm,
this? Like a year ago, he was affiliated with some sort of church that they were into the wrong things. I'm not sure exactly. I think I
mm-hmm.
lost you for a second. I'm not sure exactly what they were into, but it was some sort of white. It was this white. I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't want to botch the name or anything, but there was something
Yeah.
real shady about him, and I kind of let that slide. I'm like, okay, he came out and talked about it. It is
Mm-hmm.
what it is. Now, in the middle of what's going on, he is a smart man. You're a quarterback of an NFL team, one of the best to
That's
do. You're
true.
a smart man. You know what you're saying at all times. You
Mm-hmm.
know how you're going to be received at all times.
Mm-hmm.
In this moment, he had the nerve and the audacity to say the things that he said about the flag, bro, randomly. Like it was out of the blue.
That's true.
And then here, the funniest part, his apology, bro, it was the funniest part. I follow there's a reporter that I trust. His name is Robert Little of
Okay.
VSO. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Real dope guy. And I trust him because he's given it. He's the media, but he's giving it to me real.
Mm-hmm.
And he was speaking on that post that Drew Brees made the next day apologizing. First
Mm-hmm.
of all, he went to Google and typed in black white
I
hand,
saw that.
and the
Yeah.
first image that was there,
Well,
they chose.
that was the true. I'm just cleaning it up.
Yeah, so I was like, you have so many pictures of you with black guys, you couldn't pull one of them out. Like
Right.
it looked lazy. It looked lazy. And then the whole Donald Trump thing, I don't know if I want to believe that because for one, he could have easily like he knows what he's doing. He's trying to clean himself up. He had
That's
to because
true.
he was getting dogged for a few
Mm-hmm.
days.
He was getting dogged by his teammates too, and he knew like, oh, if I get dogged by my teammates, I might not have a good
Yeah,
season, and it's gonna look bad for him for forever. You know,
yeah,
people are gonna remember how companies, you know, celebrities and other famous people say right now, so they
hmm
have to tread carefully. I
yeah,
try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna wait and see what he does. You know,
yeah.
let's
I
see
feel
how
you on
you
that
impact the change so I make a final decision. And that's the same thing I feel about the NFL. They're talking about, well, we're going to work with Colin Kaepernick. I want to see it. You got to show me
Yeah,
now because you've been basically oppressing, you know, African Americans in your own way for a while now. Because Colin Kaepernick, just that whole thing, and I don't want to, you know, beat up on that horse, but come on, man. You're telling me the
yeah.
guy didn't even get a real tryout over the 4 years? I mean, come on.
You got guys like Chase Daniels in the league. You got guys like Joe Flacco still in the league. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, but
Colin Kaepernick got a job.
who knows? But yeah. So sports for me, again, I think UFC is here to stay. I think Dana White's like, all right, I got a system now. I got my own facility. People go get
Yeah,
punched every week, and they go pay for it. Okay, cool.
he knows what he's doing. Yeah.
NBA, got to see. I'm interested to see if any more guys. I know I just heard a Lakers player opted out. I'm interested to see.
Avery Bradley. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see if any more players opt out because I know there was some news about Kyrie trying to organize people to opt out to try to hit the pockets, which is important. That's another part of this movement that people don't talk about. They don't start listening to African Americans until we start hitting their pockets because
Yeah.
one thing that a lot of people are learning, the African American dollar is one of the most spent dollars in America. Because actually, something I picked up in marketing once I finished school is that African Americans are actually more geared to buy higher quality things than other races. And I think it comes from, you know, being, you know, systematically oppressed. When we get some money to buy something nice, we're gonna buy something nice because we want to know what it feels like to be rich. So we're one of the communities that usually buy things nicer when we have the capital to spend it. So,
That makes the most sense.
you know, so I thought that was interesting and said, well, I get what Kyrie's doing. He's trying to hit him in the dollar. You know, me personally, I've been only buying really black owned as much as possible, like hair products, clothes, you know,
Oh
things like
yeah,
that. If I'm, you know, anything like that, I've been going black owned because, you know, they're going to start listening to us once we start hitting pockets. And that's really what matters. And we're going to see that. So just to kind of close out here, this has been a great conversation. I want to know
for sure.
what are your next steps for the podcast, and also your next steps if you have any for making an impact. I know it's kind of hard to think ahead. I know for me, it's going to be to continue to do the podcast, but talk to people more like yourself, and also people that have been, you know, really involved in this movement, so I can continue to get your voices heard. Like I'm not having you on here just, you know, so I can promote my podcast. You know, I want people to go listen to you as well because it's important that they hear it from different angles. So what are your
Absolutely.
next steps here? What do you think you're going to be doing in the future to promote this movement?
like you said, bro, just keeping the podcast going. That's definitely the main thing. Keeping the conversation going. We have some names. We have some names coming on pretty soon. I don't want to
Oh,
say I
bring
don't
them
want
with
to
the
say them out
heat.
loud just yet, but we got some guys. We got some guys and some girls coming on that I think it's going to hit a lot of people. And I'm
Okay.
excited. Tune in if you're listening. Tune in. Head Right Podcast. Some cool things are on the way. We got some political candidates. We got some political candidates. We got a professional athlete who's down. We got it's gonna be it's gonna be an exciting time. So like I said, just keeping the conversation going. But now I think actually putting in action.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on the last episode we had talked about getting a African American studies course within the curriculum at my hometown, and those are some steps that we've been trying to take. We've been talking with some school board members. We've been talking with some principals, and now we're trying to gather information, trying to gather people to see how we can go about implementing that curriculum within the school. So just trying to get active, you know what I mean? Signing petitions, learning, talking, being active, and just finding your role. And I think you and we need to continue to use our voices, and I think this could be our role. So much love and appreciation to you, bro. I definitely want to applaud you for doing your podcast. I was very happy to get on when you texted me. I know we were supposed to get on yesterday. Things came up. Sorry about that, but
problem,
bro, let's keep doing our thing, and let's keep the conversation going.
Oh yeah, for sure. Here at the Provoking Conversation, and we ain't never gonna stop talking. I told somebody the other day, say, you ever plan on stopping that part? How long you plan on doing it? As long as the internet keeps allowing me to post it, and then I'm gonna do it from my front porch with a megaphone. I ain't gonna shut up. So, no, Terry, thank you so much for coming on, man. I do appreciate your time here. You keep doing what you're doing. And, so for everyone listening, I will include actually a link to Terry's podcast in a bio. You use Anchor, right, as well? So you use Anchor?
Yeah, we just got on the Anchor. Yes, sir. Yeah.
That's actually what I use as well. So I'll include that link to Anchor so people can tune in and everything like that. So once again, Terry, thank you for coming on, man. I'll go ahead and tag you and everything. So, man, that's about it, man. So,
much love, bro.
Oh, much love too, man. Take care. All right, guys. So we just had Terry on. That was a great conversation, and he actually just texted me saying, "Good shit, bro." Excuse my language, but guys like that, man, they invigorate me. They make me want to do more. They make me want to be more involved. They make me want to, be a better man myself. So I just want to thank Terry again for coming on and, just being a voice. And some of the things that he's really trying to instill there is really impactful. I do want you guys take a moment, listen to his podcast. If you're truly an ally, and you're truly an ally of the African American community, voices like ours aren't the most important. We're not celebrities. We're not crazy people, but we're people that are here on the front lines with you. We're regular people. So take a moment and listen to us. So please, guys, if you get an opportunity, listen to Terry's podcast. Once again, thank you for tuning in to the Provoking the Conversation podcast. As you know, guys, like I said before to Terry, I ain't gonna never stop. Black Lives Matter. Again, that will never stop leaving my mouth. And again, I just want to reiterate a point that I'm talking to Terry about, is that it's not a black versus white thing. It's not a police officer versus, public thing. I'm really, and people like Terry and other activists are really here. We're trying to change people's hearts so we can become unified. So we become unified as a country and love each other and, basically, care about each other as people. So next time someone says Black Lives Matter, don't take offense to it. Just listen to what they're trying to say. Think of it coming from love, because when people are hurt, sometimes they say things in anger, but really all people need is love, and that's my honest truth. So that's my sappy moment of the day. Once again, guys, thank you for tuning in. Please download me on Spotify. Send me a review on Apple Podcasts. Y'all are slacking. Yes, you the listeners, you are slacking on the Apple Podcast reviews. Come on, guys. Gotta try and get me famous so I can get more people on here so we can provoke this conversation. Help a brother out. But leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Listen to us on Anchor. We'll be coming to other DSPs coming soon. And also, this is going to be our first YouTube video. Woo, woo, YouTube. may not be greatly edited, maybe some, camera issues, may not look that great, but I'm gonna put my face on camera because I just got done with my quarantine haircut, so I think I look great. Once again, guys, thanks for listening. I appreciate you guys. If no one told you, I love you guys. Be safe, and once again, keep talking.